All right, we're going to do a video on some new skills in TinkerCAD. First thing we want to look at, a couple things here, is down below in your settings. We have settings. If I click on settings, I can change from millimeters to inches. We're going to go ahead and keep it in millimeters for today. And we are going to change our snap grid, and we'll use that later on. 1 millimeter, we can change that down to 0.1. But we'll go ahead and let's go change it to, let's say, 0.5 millimeter. Now we can go ahead and keep it at 1 millimeter. That's fine. Let's keep it at 1 millimeter. All right, and we'll start by bringing in a box. Bring this in here. And we can change the size of this by clicking on like a corner. If I click on a corner, it shows me the dimensions, height and width. Let's go ahead and change this to 30. 30 wide, we can click on it, and you can type in the units, the amount measurement there. Or if I want to adjust, I can click on the, let's rotate it a little bit. I can click on another corner and I can actually drag it that way. It's kind of tough sometimes to get it accurate that way, so I like to click on them. So we'll do 40 and we'll change that to 30. So it's a 30 by 40, and then we'll rotate down a little bit and we're going to change the height. I click on this top one dot there and we'll change that to 10. All right, and next we'll go ahead and we'll bring in a cylinder, and we'll put the cylinder up here kind of in the top of this, and we want to make it the same diameter as the same width as our block. So if I click on a corner, I could drag both of them, or if I grab this center dot and I hold the shift key down, as I drag that, it does both the width and or the diameter on both sides the same. So we want to get that, we want to have that the same as our block. So we'll change that to 30, and that's there. And then we can align that. Yesterday we looked at some different things, but today we're going to use align. So I'm going to select both objects here, and I go up to this button here. This is align. And when I do align, it gives me options, these dots. These dots tell me I can align it by the corners, by the edge, by the height, by the centers. So we want to align this back and forth. So I want to click on this bottom one down here. When I click on that, then that aligns that in both that direction there. And when I look at this here, if I put the end corner, then it would put it all the way in the object. We don't want that, so Control Z undo. We want that just to be centered, aligned that way. We'll go ahead and kind of just move that so that it's pretty much in the center of this. My cube is kind of in the center of that there. It's just kind of, if you need to, you can use the arrow keys. I can select one of the objects, and I can use my left and right arrow if I've got it lined up this way so that it gets kind of about where it looks like the center of it. So that looks pretty good. And then we'll go ahead and make sure the height is the same. So we select the cylinder, do the height there. We know that this was 10 because that's what the other one was. And now they're looking pretty good. And then we'll go ahead and what we do is called a Boolean union. So we'll select both of these objects. I've got everything selected, and then this up here is grouping them. It's a Boolean union, so that makes it all one solid object. So there we go. I can change the color of it if I want. We can play with the different things there, but that's down the road. Okay, and then we will bring in another box. And on this one, we can do some of the resizing like we did before with the corners. If I do both corners at the same time, if I do corner, hold the shift key, then it does both the height and the width at the same time. And we can bring that down to 10, or like I said, we can click on the dimensions and do it ourselves. So that's 10 by 10, and holding the shift key down, it did all three dimensions, the height, the width, and the length. And I can bring this object in so that it's inside the object, or it doesn't really matter if I have it outside, because I can grab everything, and I can use my align key now. And if I center it, it aligns it there. And then if I use the corner, then that bumps it back to the end there. So now it's right in the center. Now that I've got it in the center, I'll go ahead and click out. It's in the center, and now I want to rotate this. So if I select that cube, the cube inside there, now I've got that. I could rotate it manually by selecting this arrow here, clicking and dragging it. And if I do that, I want to hold the shift key down, and that jumps it in increments so that it locks in at 45, 90, that kind of thing. So we'll do it at 45. That's good there. And then I want this to be the corners on the edge here. So I'm going to tilt it down a little bit. I can use my arrow key and I can move that thing down so that it's right on the edges. Now this snap, that's where you'll notice when I'm moving this thing, it moves it at 1 millimeter increments because that's what I have it set at. If I had set this at, say, 5 millimeter increments, when I move it, it jumps at 5 millimeters. So that's handy to go move it fast, but then I don't have the precision there. So I put it at 1 millimeter. And if we have it at 0.1, then it would move in really small increments. So it just depends on what you're wanting to do, and you can change it often if you want. Okay, so now we have that block in there, and it's the same height and everything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make this block a hole. So up here, right now it's a solid. I'm going to click it and change it to a hole. So that makes it something that I can actually remove from the other part. And what I'll do then is take that new block that's on remove, and now that it's selected, I'm going to go up here to this duplicate and repeat. I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to move it in the up direction. Use the up arrow. So I'm going to move it up 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 5 millimeters. And I'll do it again, another 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I could do it that way, or I could change this to 5 millimeters now. So now that I've got that one selected, I'm going to do it again, duplicate, and it moved it up automatically 5 or 10 millimeters. Duplicate it again, boom, and did it again, and do one more for kicks and giggles. There, now I've got these holes basically that are all lined up inside the solid. And you want to think of those as like this solid is like, let's say it's a piece of styrofoam, and these things here, the middle pieces I just made, are hot pieces of metal. So when I select everything, and then I go up and do my Boolean union or my group, then it takes the pieces, the hot pieces, and it removes the material from the solid piece. So now I've designed and made a fancy little chip clip. I can use this to print out and roll up my bag of chips and keep them fresh.